Hello and welcome to the Wisdom Factory. We are between the seasons and we our casual, you say casual?
Casual.
Conversations that matter. And today we have with us...
We have Iulian Dumitrașcu from Romania, who is quite well versed in both English and German too, so we're very fortunate because I have no Romanian. Yes.
No, we don't know Romanian, but we know English. And I think English seems to be the language which is most understood and where we can reach more people. But before we go into the topic, I wanted to say our last season was about relationships at home and in business. And we have just published an iBook, which you can also have as a PDF version, but then you have to contact us. An iBook on iStore, on iTunes, you find it, The Love Experience. And if you want to have the PDF version, contact us at thewisdomfactory.de, which, by the way, is also in our lower third.
So it is.
So we are very much interested in interesting topics, and relationships is one of that, but we are also integral practitioners. So we are looking a little bit at sort of everything in life on this planet. And so today,
from kind of integral point of view.
Yeah, yes. From a higher perspective.
Oh yes, very high.
Yeah,
we're extremely high. Well, very highly developed. We are,
yeah,
yes.
okay. So you don't need to be surprised that we have many different kinds of topics. And today we want to talk about restoring nature to health. And we have Iulian with us, and Iulian will talk little bit about himself, who he is and why he is interested in this topic.
Yeah.
Okay?
Hello. I will try to express myself tonight mainly as a human being, which usually doesn't need much description. To provide you with more information about myself, I let you know what services I've been providing. I qualified and was licensed as a translator and have provided for many years language services, and starting from this year, I want to provide a wider range of communication services, and one of them involves software. So I've started working with some software developers on a communication application that should be richer in functions that anything that we use today, although we recognize the merits of those who have already provided us with really useful services until now, and I would mention Google here. And yeah, I will not go for the moment into much detail unless you ask me about what new software should make possible for us. And now I will go to the second part of your question, why I am interested in this. I should be interested as a human being. I've been worrying about the state of nature for at least a decade, and I thought that its state would be worsening, and it is. If 10 to 15 years ago, I, for instance, could ignore the changes or possible changes in the state of the environment, now they are here. For a couple of years, my life in Romania undergoes a change for the worse. And I refer, for instance, to the fact that the pattern of precipitations has changed. That, for instance, in the autumn of 2009, we experienced a drought. This was one of the first phenomenons that we had not experienced for generations.
Yeah, I can relate to that because we had, it was only 2 years ago.
2 years ago, yes.
We have a well in the little wood we have here nearby, and where we get our water from for the garden. And 2 years ago, this well was dry and had never been dry before. Nobody, you know, the people who are from the place, they said they have never seen it dry before. So things are changing, that's for sure.
So as a younger person in my 20s, I became really interested in healthcare, and that interest extended actually to the entire nature. And I tried recently to remember when did I become interested in what was going on with nature. I know that in 2002, I was reading about the possibility to, how should I put it? I think they said depollute, somehow revert pollution. And much later than that, in I don't remember the year exactly. It may have been 2012. I heard of Boyan Slat, a young man from maybe the Netherlands, who suggested that we could collect trash that we put into the oceans, that is collected from the surface, so not yeah. And I don't know anything more about that project. I tried to follow this person. I think I wrote him, but I got no reply from him. And this, I mean, I mentioned this because it was related to reverting pollution, or at least reducing pollution, if reverting is actually a dream and not a possibility. I could either, as you choose, go back to trying to describe a history of my interest in the state of the environment, or talk about another experience, another reality that I think should worry us, and that we might want to change. The fact that environmentalists seem to communicate insufficiently and to collaborate rather ineffectively. I mean, I gladly listen to somebody contradicting me, because I do want to know about avoided destruction, and about improvements, and about rebalancing. And I want to join forces with such people. But I can indicate other facts, a sad reality, that people who declare at least an interest in the environment at large, they don't follow through. They don't build teams, and they don't spend much time acting coherently. I don't see much of that.
Well, you mentioned, Iulian, a minute ago about environmentalists not communicating very effectively. I presume by that you meant not so much that they had trouble speaking, but that the arguments that they use don't seem to resonate and motivate action very well. Is that correct?
Well, so I will certainly reply, answer immediately your question. After saying that, I gladly hear about effective action with if possible, at least short-term effects, if not longer. So some things that are happening are that some organizations that say that they would take environmental action, they collect money and want to lead rich men's lives. That has nothing to do with protecting the environment. There's been for too many years a worthless practice, including at avaz.org. I'm not sure about the pronunciation, but you might know the service.
Mm-hmm.
Having people fill a form, even if it takes 7 seconds, okay, it's the same procedure, and telling them that they're fighting for the environment. Do sign this petition to save elephants, tigers, rhinoceros, and so on and so on.
Mm-hmm.
And nothing is saved. Tigers and elephants and rhinoceros have been dying and disappearing as species for years.
Yeah.
I think less than a year ago, another species of rhinoceros was declared extinct after some 3 years after having actually seen rhinoceros of that species.
Mm-hmm.
So what would you, excuse me.
Yeah, well, I'm curious. So are you saying that signing these petitions or sending a small amount of money isn't necessarily very helpful in generating any worthwhile action out in the world?
Can I say something to this?
Sure.
I understand your pain that things are not yet, I would say, working as we would like to. Sign petitions, for me, is the first step to make people aware that these things are happening. And then I know, for instance, a person who did a huge project, created a film about the temple elephants in India and to free them from this torture. And she succeeded to have a lot of crowdfunding, and the film will be shown here, but it will be shown mainly in India to change the mind of the people who think that they need these elephants and torture them all the time, you know? And she showed photos and explained how the life of these elephants is. And horrible, you know, but she is for 2 or 3 years, she was in one of our shows, not in ours, with Margarita. Yeah. She dedicated her life to do that, you know, for 2 years. And the post you posted, this is a person who did something on his own to create something. Would you say we need more people to do that, to really do something instead of only signing petition? How can we do that? What can we do that as normal people who have no, let's say, finances
or expertise,
specific expertise? What can we do?
Well, yes, there's more to say about those two methods, because they will not disappear. So the first one will continue to exist as a method of organization, and the second one is a method of communication. But I think it's better to return to the deed of an Asian, which started this discussion. So this man started cleaning a river, and his example was followed by quite a number of people, because of course doing such a thing is not one person's job. I've seen this very rarely. I think it's the second time I see something like, or anyway, very few times I've heard of such things. Heard of them doesn't mean that they haven't happened. You may have heard that a person actually created a forest in Asia. Well, it's a small forest, and yeah, it's a longer story. Maybe it deserves a more detailed description that saying that a person created a forest.
The initiative of a person and the perseverance to collect resources or humans or money and do that. This is, yes, a person is doing it, because I think most of the big deeds in the world are really the babies of one person really going all the way through and inspiring others to collaborate,
And I saw Susan York, whom I invited to this talk, mention, I think, an international initiative from maybe Indonesia, where people do a thing that I started thinking about some time ago. So for some time they have been logging forests, of course, to sell the wood, and I think it might be in relation to clearing ground for planting palms, for that oil that is now in everything, in our food and cosmetics. Okay. And a medical team from several countries went there and traded goods for services instead of money for services, and services for services too. So they say that at least one community from that country now doesn't, simply give in exchange what they have, including their time and energy, instead of going and working for some rich people, and their work would be destroying their and our environment, because we're all in the same small place. We imagine that Indonesia and Japan are far away from Romania. It's not.
Yeah.
I don't know enough details. I actually invited this representative of this project, something like Health for Humanity, or I don't know, to this call, but they haven't seen the invitation, so they're not really using their Google account. I started thinking some time ago, how do we break a vicious cycle? Many of us are in this cycle. So some of us pretend that we have to destroy our environment in order to stay alive. You cannot kill yourself in order to stay alive. And one project that I would support and participate in would be communicating more carefully, in more detail, about our deeds. So for instance, we could create a Google community. Oh, hello, Susan.
Hi.
Oh,
I could hear you, but I wasn't able to join. But now I'm on.
Great.
hello, Susan. Nice to meet you. I'm Mark, and this is Heidi, and we were sort of hoping you would make it, and here you are. Hooray!
Yeah. Yeah. Thanks for having me. Sorry, I wasn't able to join earlier.
Well, no, you do.
So we were talking, you listened to what we were talking about?
Yes.
It's okay for you, Jan, that we give her the word and let her give us some comments? Okay, good.
Oh, well, thanks. Yeah, I heard what Julian was saying about the Indonesia project. But before I talk about that, I really appreciated what he was saying about, we're doing this because we're human beings and we're concerned about the state of nature. And that's where I'm coming from.
Mm-hmm.
And, I went to Indonesia on this trip to look at, issues linking conservation and health, because I really feel like that's, the direction that we need to be heading towards, that we can't work on our issues alone. Everything is connected. And so this clinic in Borneo, as Julian was saying, they're allowing people to get health care in exchange for other forms of payment, and one of them is seedlings, so they can reforest a national park and other areas that have been deforested by illegal logging, even for palm oil plantations. And a lot of the local people were logging illegally because they felt like they had no other choice. It's a poor community, and they couldn't afford health care. And to make a long story short, a woman from the United States went to Borneo in the 2000s to study orangutans, and actually it changed her life. She realized that she wasn't going to be able to save orangutans until people had their healthcare needs addressed and poverty issues addressed. So she went back and became a doctor and co-founded this clinic in a place called Sukadana in Indonesian Borneo. And they were working with the local community, who said, yeah, we don't want to log, but we don't feel we have another alternative. We understand if we log, it's going to lead to erosion and more flooding and forest fires. But they just felt they didn't have a choice. So this clinic was founded, and as Julian was saying, they have different forms of payment that people can do, and they are employing former illegal loggers to work in their conservation and reforestation efforts. And it seems to be working. And it's just like an indication of, people are poor, they're going to do what they need to do to survive. So as, me personally as an environmentalist, I know that that's, fact. I'm well off compared to a lot of people. I don't have to cut down a tree to go feed my kid, but I understand that imperative. And so if we're able to kind of work with these often poor people or just communities that have such pressing needs, then we can work and save nature. But until, we're not going to be able to save all the elephants and tigers if there's this pressing need of people that just, are trying to survive. And, until we kind of work together.
I think you really nail it, because the first need is for humans to get their primary needs met. They cannot occupy their minds with elephants or whatever when they have so shortcomings in their own life, when we talk about levels of development, when you are really in the survival stage, you don't care for the tree. you don't care for the planet or for global warming because it's so far away. You first have to get some food. So the right, what you say beautifully, the right way is first take care for the life of the people, and then the consciousness will change automatically. It will free up energy so that other topics can be taken into consideration.
Yeah, they can consider other things. They can think about it. They can be involved. They can notice. That's yeah.
I mean, what was really interesting about this Borneo project was, these founders went in there and talked to the community. They called it radical listening. And to me, it was just kind of eye-opening that they appreciated the value of the forest. They just felt like they had no other choice. And so people do want to protect what they have. Oftentimes, they just, like you're saying, it's like I can't even think about protecting elephants if I can't feed my family.
Well, these are concerns that are much closer to home, too. We don't have to go to Borneo to find people who are busy doing things that they don't like, but feel like they have very little choice in the matter because of their economic situation. We all, so many of us end up doing work we don't care for one way or another, and that may be harmful to the world or not, but in any event, it's not where our heart is. And once the needs of our hearts can be satisfied, then we can start to make choices about how we affect the world.
And then we come back to the petitions. We also need to know that there is a possibility to do something. So when we want to do something, but we don't know what, we need to have people who show up and do the work, and then we can join them. Or we are the people who do the work. And everybody of us does in some area the work, and other people can join. So it is not only the let's say the bad circumstance. It is often also ignorance, because we feel helpless. So many people feel helpless. They cannot do anything. Life is like this. We try to go ahead in some way. And they think, maybe that is not good that I have cut up the tree, but, it was needed. As we said before, the car don't want to run over bumps, so we have to cut the tree. And this seems, it's a question of values, nature is in the value hierarchy very late. First, me, then my family, and then maybe my country, and, but nature and animals are far there.
And it's kind of a strange contradiction, because very often people who are not yet in the modern state have a unique connection to the land and to the places where they have been living for generations. And I think about the people who were working on cleaning up this river that Iulian was telling us about. They had a difficult time even considering living without the river, whatever the condition of the river. It was the river, and that was how life was. So they could be very sad about the river, but they still couldn't think of what to do about it.
There's something I just thought might be worthwhile mentioning. There's an international movement called the Global Alliance for Rights of Nature that you might want to check out. Just I feel like in my work I really try to promote the importance of human rights, but also environmental rights, and kind of balancing that. And what this group tries to do, and they're located around the world, small group of course, but they try to pass a lot of local community laws to protect the community from fracking or oil development and different things, so where the community has a say in what's going on in their area. And I think it's a ways away from being a big success, but there's people plugging away at this of trying to empower local people to protect their own community.
That's great. put information link in the page where you listen?
Yeah,
to
sure, I'll do that.
Would be
That
good.
would be
Yeah.
good.
Thank you.
Yeah.
You know, and this is happening in the developed world too. It's not just in the developing countries.
Sure, sure.
Yeah.
So, Iulian.
Yeah, Iulian's here too.
Coming back to you.
What has occurred
I
to
like
you?
listening. I mean, you say very interesting things. So.
You were talking about the means of communication, and you were talking about Google, and that I think you wanted to say that we are fortunate that it's free, that we can do these things, which 10 years ago would have been absolutely unthinkable.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I've talked over the internet with people from all continents, and I'll keep doing this, and I want to do more than this. I want to make sure that people, at least those with internet access, have the best means first to communicate, because the people are open to other countries and nations, and there's already a habit of communicating across seas, and we also have other tools. We have languages that are spoken internationally. For instance, English is not my mother tongue, so more people can communicate. I mean, people can more easily communicate outside their nation, and this should help us exchange information. For instance, these people in Borneo could provide information about themselves. They are doing it already, and set an example, because we have similar problems in other parts of the world, and we could learn from them. Or I told you that I thought about something like this. I started thinking about it several years ago. So I'd like to think together with these people so that we create a ripple, at least in people's emotions. But I think we can replicate their deeds in other parts of the world. And not only that, I told you when I hear that somebody cleaned a river or helped the forest or something like this, I have to work with these people. And not only that, they are excellent examples, I think, which I will keep giving and following. And as I do this, other people might say, Julian, I want to talk with you about this, and I want to team up with you, and so on and so on. This is a behavioral pattern, right?
Yeah, great one.
We're being a little distracted by a sudden storm that just blew up. It's very exciting to look out the windows here and watch our property getting blown all about.
Hopefully we're staying into.
Yes, and we're still online. Yeah.
How has the weather been this month in Italy? I mean, I saw news from all over the world, but there has been too much rain.
Oh, we had very rainy spring. Yeah.
Too much rain.
Mm-hmm.
No, this is not true. We didn't have rain when it should have rained.
Right.
In November, December, it began to rain in mid-March, I think, or April. And then now it is very unusual that in June it is still raining. But, you know, I'm happy because I know that this year I don't have to fear for the water supply we have. So, yeah, I wanted to say, we were talking about river. I came here about 30 years ago, and the river Tiber was completely dirty, because everybody every commune, every village let their stuff in the river, no? And it took some time, but now it is so about, I don't know, some year ago I saw a little crankio, what is that?
Crab.
A crab walking along, which is normally a sign for good water quality. So a little bit seems to be done even with institutions, only that it takes long. It takes long time. And when it is very pressing the issue, I think it is perfect if there are people who really give their life and inspire others to help him or her to do that work.
Yeah.
But I will still come back to the question: what can we normal people sitting behind the screen, what can we do when we don't have, you know, the possibility to do great big things? Is it, for instance, living in the countryside and creating your own food and trying to live healthy with organic food and stuff? Is this enough? Or what would you say? What is needed to be done by more conscious people?
Susan, do you want to answer this?
Sure, I'll take a stab. I think it's important to do things about, you know, growing your own food and using less energy and consuming less. But I think the most important thing is really our person-to-person connections within, you know, our families or our friends or, you know, our communities of, especially with people that don't think like us, and that's really difficult to do. But to try to have some of these conversations to try to find middle ground. I mean, sometimes it's just, you know, just getting the word out, you know, I mean, something simple like on Facebook or an email of, oh, I was at a climate march or something that, you know, gets in their view of the world. Like they see what you're doing and it's like, oh, either they think you're crazy or somebody in your friends or family circle might be more interested. And until we just kind of need to plug away. It's a long process. I mean, certainly we have a long ways to go, but you know, like locally here, there's a woman that does a refinery walk because we have several refineries in the San Francisco Bay Area, and she does like a 12 or 15 mile walk between one city to another of maybe, you know, 50 or 100 people that are walking, but they're all holding signs and walking along busy streets that raise awareness. So the people that are marching are all for renewable energy and finding alternatives, but the people that are seeing the march, they may not know anything about this, and they might be spurred to talk to one of us or do something. And so, I mean, that, like I said, it's a long process, but trying to build those connections of reaching across to different viewpoints is really critical.
Mm-hmm. So you're saying that a main factor is becoming visible.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And this is a perfect means, no, to become visible.
Here we are, being visible. Oh, we're doing it right. Okay.
I mean, we do this with like-minded people, but you know, maybe the next time you do the hangout, you'll have 5 new people that are interested but weren't involved, and then they share it with somebody else or they talk about it, and so we just plug away.
Yep. Yes, that's one of our premises, certainly. That's why we do this. It's not the money, folks. What money?
Never comes, it only costs.
Yeah. But, you know, you were talking, Suzanne, about people who don't necessarily have the same point of view or share the same values. And it really behooves those of us who have moved to a point where we can see those problems of communication and make the moves toward people who don't necessarily seem to share our own values. I know that, for example, if I talk to my brother who lives far away from me in far western Washington, I could make some common ground on environmental issues by reminding him that the Lord gave us, you know, stewardship of the earth, you know, and that we need to take care of His creation, etc. That's the language I would use in talking about the environment, but that's what he would use and understand and could relate to, and we could work together in some ways. You bet.
Yeah, kind of like the Pope.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Finding the right language
Yeah.
with whom you speak, I find it very challenging.
Yeah.
Because between people who are more or less in the same wavelengths, it's easy. We understand each other.
Yeah.
You know? The others. And then when we become missionary and say, you should blah, 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 it doesn't really have much.
Doesn't work.
No. No.
It's the opposite which we get by imposing our worldviews on the people. So it's really, I think it's a big challenge for us, and it's a big task for us to find the right way of communicating. So, Iulian, how do you do that? You say communication is the main interest of yours.
So one thing that I want to do is to create a communication application that allows for a communication that is closer to our natural communication. The tools that we have now, you mentioned, for instance, Facebook, make for a fragmented and incoherent communication. So, so this is one thing. Another thing is that we want to create another application that we connect to the communication application, which will be a knowledge base, an encyclopedic work that should again present information, organize information better, presented it more beautifully. We will focus more on the value of information, not simply. Some people compile information for Wikipedia. There's hardly any human input. Simply stuck there and forgotten there. And we're not out there only to consume electrical energy. We actually want to help people make more, not only of computing. Computers are only tools, but of their life. And another thing is that we want to make this service more practical. And maybe the more practical side of the service is that we're going to allow the application users to communicate in writing and in speech with educators, specialists, this kind of people, so that the information that they get, for instance, about the environment, can be understood better. They have, for instance, guides who can reply to questions like, what can we do? You, Heidi, asked such a question minutes earlier. So we want to provide an improved education globally, which will take a lot of people, a lot of effort. But this is a secondary plan. Once we have a good communication environment. And for communicating, we don't only intend to provide the application, writing some code. We want to do everything it takes to help people communicate. That is, when somebody, we start the discussion with what do you want to achieve? What are your goals? For instance, do you want to improve something in your community? Do you want to clean a lake? Do you want to save a forest? Okay. These are not all the goals. I mention again such things because we're talking about nature today. We want to help people communicate online and offline and maintain a high quality of communication. And we intend to apply healthy principles that can be used again and again. And we will also lay out and put in place procedures for communication and collaboration, so that we speed things up for people. Instead of every person or every couple of persons having to agree on software environment and procedures every time, with our advice, they can set everything up faster and more reliably. Moreover, we actually intend by all our actions to help people build teams faster, because I've seen this problem. It happened again and again, and I can give you clear examples and talk for minutes about it. It's still difficult, especially when you want to protect nature, to build a team. So
Yeah.
I'd like to. I know it's a lot of information, at the same time very little, because I've only touched the surface. But
Yeah, I would like to ask you something.
I remain open towards you, so you can continue any part of this discussion at about any time with me.
Yeah, I have a question in the sense you are talking about the means and the tools of communication, and we need that. How do you think to inspire people to use them? How do you think to inspire people to come together and really do it? Because I think we have a lot of tools already, and they might not be perfect, but what I see is a hesitation, or this what we talked before, victimization, or what can I do? Nothing. And it's sort of we seeing things going downhill, what can we do? So how would you see that we can create, maybe even a model, to inspire people to come out of their hole?
I was thinking by listening ourselves, perhaps, to others.
Yeah, listen ourselves to others. Suzanne, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, it's a big question, how to inspire people to take action. But I think, we all have our different ideas, and if Julian thinks, creating another tool, I mean, that's absolutely worth doing.
Sure.
Yeah, and you know what I see in the surroundings we are following, that everybody wants to do their own stuff, and the collaboration is really not much appreciated. Everybody thinks they have the idea and then needs to find followers. I mean, we do it too, but we try at least to collaborate in some way. The readiness to unite the energies to create something bigger, I don't see it so really. And how can we do that? Instead of focusing on our own baby, then we are famous or something. How can we do that? Apart from the tools they need to be there. This is let's say a prerogative.
Prerequisite.
Yeah. Okay. As soon as the readiness is there. But this is my big how do you say, concern, how to inspire people to give up the normal life they know up to now and to create a better life for themselves and for others by going through certain challenges, for sure, I mean.
How did we do it?
I don't know. Let them talk to that.
Sure. How did you guys make the change in your life so that you're in this position? And that you're being advocates, that you're out there busy trying to make changes. Does that apply to other people that you're trying to reach? Do they have to go through these same steps? How does your life reflect in what needs to be done?
I don't know. That's a tough question. I mean, it goes back to like somebody influencing you, or some moment in your life that, you know, something clicks in your head that, you know, I love animals, so I need to do more, you know, I need to do something to really affect change. But, you know, it happens to people at different points in their lives. So I guess I don't know. I think it's kind of luck, almost in a way. Like, what made me an activist? I don't, you know, was it my parents or school or what? I don't know. But, you know, something was instilled in me.
Do you say that the pain must be big enough to really go out for that?
The pain?
The pain to see animals suffer, for instance, and then take care for them? Or is it also possible to do these things without suffering of seeing the... I saw you at the beginning, Iulian, where you were sort of really in pain about what is happening to nature.
Yeah.
Is this the push to go out?
I think it was, I don't know, 2002 when I was speaking with an Israeli about animal suffering, and I don't think I needed any convincing. I didn't need to go there and witness it. I simply recognized the trend, the downward trend, a long time ago, and of course, my instinctive reaction was to abate this, you know, to avoid destruction, to, you know, to change the course, and it hasn't happened. And of course, whenever we do something, we can try to estimate what the critical energy for you know, making a change, you know, is for, you know, for reversing, you know, this trend. That is very difficult to do.
Yeah.
I simply keep believing that some humans will protect nature.
You know, that doesn't sound very hopeful. You know, I'm looking for some way of changing the game. What is it that we are not doing, and that prevents other people from doing, and which prevents other people from doing, because we have made changes in our awareness, in our interests, in where we put our energy. You know, maybe not necessarily in saving the world, but in other very worthwhile projects. You know, not necessarily in saving nature. In some ways, however nasty it could be, the world is going to take care of itself whether we're here or not. You know, so in the long run, you know, how long do we have to take our view? How high do we have to look down from above to say, yes, the horrible things are happening and the wonderful things are happening? And what is the sum game? This is how the world progresses and evolves. You know, it has always been thus. Force and counterforce, and a kind of, some people would say competition, but it's really a kind of cooperation that emerges from the conflict.
And that we need to, if we want to be part of the change, we need not to give in, but to be sort of positive and energetic and go for it. Because when we go into, as I said before, what can I do here? Then nothing will happen. Then the other forces are too much. No, there is no meeting point. And I think, as you said before, Susanne, that we have to take care for the things which we are called to take care for. And this indirectly will do something for nature. Or somebody does it directly, this is fine, you know, but we cannot all do the same thing. I think this is illusion that everybody goes just for one thing, you know. But I think everybody has the power to do something important, let's say to save the world, in different places.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
We are quite at the end of the hour.
Yeah.
I would like to ask you if there is something what you really, you know, didn't have the possibility to say up to now, and what you want to, who watches the transmission or the recording, what you want them to know before we close.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would just say that, you know, it's very easy to get overwhelmed by, you know, all these problems that we're facing, and there are certainly days when I don't feel that hopeful, but I do take hope from, you know, people that I work with or that I see in my community that are, you know, really trying hard to improve things. And then when I, you know, travel, even, you know, in the U.S. or in other countries, I see really great things going on the ground, that, you know, people are really trying to make, you know, that quote unquote better world, even amongst, you know, amidst really trying times. And I just kind of take hope from that, you know, we'll be successful. I mean, otherwise I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing of trying to raise awareness about all this. I feel like, you know, you have to try. You know, maybe in the end nature will take care of itself. I don't know, but I think, you know, there's enough, you know, will in the world to try to better, you know, our lives, but also nature. I mean, not for everyone. Not everyone gets that, but, you know, a lot of people do get that we're part of the web of life, and just to try, you know, and do what we can and try to get there.
Yeah, exactly.
Thank you, Suzanne. Yeah, I hear the struggle in your voice.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh dear. Iulian, is there something you wish you had gotten around to saying but haven't been able to yet?
There is very much. I'd say this. Whenever you do something, starting for instance, from the fact that you are displeased with the quality of your food, your water, your air, to express yourself. Somebody, for instance, myself, will listen to you. And take the first step and build a team of at least 2 people. And from there, we can cooperate internationally, and we will solve even the smallest issue, and we will continue.
Okay.
This is
Thank you. A very positive note. Yeah.
and come together at least 2 people, and that's exactly what we
How
have
about
done.
me and you? Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
we met only 4.5 years ago, and we came together probably for doing these things, because alone, I don't know if I would have done it.
Mhm.
You know,
I know I would
and
have.
you wouldn't, for sure. And I have done all the studies about all the technicalities, which are not my thing, and website and all this stuff is not my thing. But I'm all the time there on trying to learn these things, and because I know I need it to bring out what I want to bring out. So that's what I'm doing. And you?
Me? I'm doing it with you. Yeah. Right.
It's nice to have
Yeah.
support.
Yes.
So I thank you very, very much, both of you, Iulian and Susanne. It was really nice that you came in and enlivened with a feminine glow this
Oh yeah.
conversation.
Yeah, that was nice.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, Iulian, to be so cooperative that we have planned this conversation for quite a time and that finally we have done it, and for sharing what you are up to. And I really hope that we can have all the support and all the energy and confidence to go on with what we
Now, if these
doing.
two people would like to direct their friends and contacts to this conversation,
Oh yeah,
what should they do?
the Wisdom Factory DE, we have this conversation is on the YouTube channel, but it will also sooner or later posted on the website. But the YouTube channel is the Wisdom Factory. You will find it there together with many other conversations. We have conversations about economy.
Hundreds.
And about new economy, and about the situation in the Middle East, and about love relationships, about music, about terrorist attacks, and quite a lot of different things, but all with the perspective to bring awareness to what is going on, and even give the a sort of a hope that it is going on. Difficulties, but it is going on.
But it is going on, yes. And
many people working on that.
Evolution marches on, no matter which part we're playing in those moves.
Yeah. Yes. So thank you again for this wonderful conversation, and see you another time.